Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, sitting down with the play-by-play for the Chicago Fire. He's also the co-host of the Intercontinental Football Show podcast with Arlo White. Tyler Terens. Tyler, thanks for joining us.
Ted, it is my pleasure, my honor to be talking some DC United and some Chicago Fire with you on this Tuesday afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, and thanks for agreeing to come on and give us an insight. Obviously, we've played the Fire once. It was a 1-0 victory in Audi Field. I believe it was back in April, or I'd have to go back and look. Back in either April or May.
May 13th, I believe was the date. Yep.
May 13th. So it feels further back, I guess, in my memory than it actually is. But give us a sense. Has any sort of major changes for the Fire have sort of been since then? You guys have struggled, but you did pick up a few wins. Last game was not, I think, what the Fire were looking for. But give us a sense. What's changed for the Fire since that May 13th game?
Yeah, so, there has been definitely some changes. You're going to see a different looking Fire team than what you saw back on May 13th. The biggest change in what we started doing against Philly, and actually it was the first time that we had gone to a 3-back system, basically 3-5-2, since MLS is back. So we played a 3-back and MLS is back last year for the entire tournament. Obviously, we didn't get out of the group stages, and some fans were, asking, is this the right formation and whatnot? And we ended up going to a 4-2-3-1 that was effective, and the boys settled into it, following MLS's back, and that's what we were in. And then, Raphael Wicki, the head coach, who actually, stepped away for personal reasons. A family member, very close family member of his, is having some health problems. He actually flew back to Switzerland to be with them for the time being. He at the very least is going to miss the DC game, and then he obviously missed the game over the weekend. He implemented the 3-back system with FC Basel when he took them to Champions League round of 16, which is the first time that a Swiss team had gotten there. And he loves the 3-back. And when we talked to him last year, he said that, he wants them to be able to do it if they're in a pinch. And I guess he felt like they needed a little bit more cover at the back, wanted to get some higher starting positions for Boris Sekulic and Miguel Navarro, the 2 wing backs who typically play fullback. And that's what he's rolled with since the Philadelphia game. We got a 3-3 draw against Philadelphia, 3-0 against Atlanta, 3-1 against Orlando. And then obviously, like you said, not exactly the look that you want against Nashville, but as everybody at the club is saying, we're going to write that game off. And in the words of a famous television character, be a goldfish and have a short memory. And that's sort of what the Fire that's what the Fire are trying to do here. So, it was definitely a struggle at Nashville. You go down 3-0 and you go down a man inside of 16 minutes. The game is gone. There's no way that you're coming back from that. It's just a reality. But with all that said, since the 3-back, we've been scoring a lot more goals. Nacho Aliseda has really started to settle in. He's got 3 goals this season already. He's got 2 goals in the past 2 games. And no, excuse me, that's not right. He did not score against Orlando. He scored 2 against Atlanta, and then he scored against Nashville. Excuse me, I'm getting my games mixed up here. But it's just going to be a different looking formation than what we saw in that 1-0 win for you guys. And it's pretty interesting, Ted, because you guys were decimated with injuries for that game. I believe Paul Arriola had actually made his comeback from his ACL injury. That was the first game that he had appeared in quite some time. And then in addition to that, I think Flores scored his first goal for DC United. Then obviously was in a good run of form and then got hurt. But it's sort of the same story, maybe even more so. You guys have more injuries and missing pieces than you did back on that May 13th game. But as the Fire found out, you guys are extremely deep. Loud United has served you guys really well in terms of guys being able to bounce back and forth and contributing when they need to. I think Drew Skundrich actually got the start, which is his first Major League Soccer start. So it's going to be an interesting prospect, but for the Fire, it's definitely a different looking formation with a lot of the same names and faces that DC United fans saw back on May 13th.
Yeah, I think when we last played May 13th, we were kind of sort of getting most players sort of back from injury. You're right. We've been bitten by the injury bug again. It looks like you guys might have to deal with with Johnny Boulevard coming from Loudoun is looking like the potential starting forward there. Give me a sense. So one thing I find interesting, obviously the 5-1 result kind of hung hung with me a little bit because we saw another coach and another team that, I mean, the Fire, I know lately they have new ownership. They're trying to be ambitious. They're trying to go connect with the fans. But give me a sense, Raphael Wicke was hired December in 2019. Obviously 2020, you kind of write it off unless you had a coach for 10 years like DC had with Ben Olsen. I think that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But give me a sense, what is the rope for Raphael Wicke? Because I mean, lately, you see some good things with this team, I feel, but overall, you look at the overall picture and you're like, it's still just I mean, for lack of a better word, it's not good enough. I don't think the team envisions being bottom of the table for the foreseeable future.
No, of course not. I mean, listen, Ted, you've been around this game long enough. Of course, it's not what you want. I mean, no team has the aspirations to go set out and be, in 11th place in mid-July. But the reality is that this is a team, Ted, that, we were an expansion team last year without the 2-year runway to try to build a roster, if that makes sense. So new ownership comes in. New badge, obviously that has since been changed, going back to Soldier Field, new offices downtown that I'm sitting in right now. I mean, this Fire is almost unrecognizable from previous iterations of the club, all in a good sense. A lot of fans will say that it's the same old Fire, blah, 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 and all those comments on social media. But the fact of the matter is that this is a team, and it's not an excuse, but more so a reality. This is a team that was thrown together 17, 18 new signings in between the 1920 season, in addition to integrating an entirely new technical staff, bringing in a head coach in Raphael Wicke, bringing in a sporting director and a technical director in George Heitz and Sebastian Peltzer, and trying to make it work in the middle of a pandemic. Stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Now, every team in the league had to deal with it, and every team went through it. But again, the fact of the matter is that it's not Miami, it's not Nashville, where you had 2 years to try to put a roster together. They had about 3 months to put a roster together. And again, it's not an excuse. And I'm a fan of this game just as much as I'm an employee of this game. I obviously want to see results. I want to see the Fire play well. I work for them. I've fallen in love with the city and this team. The word here is that Raphael Wicke is a smart, level-headed, intelligent, caring, empathetic, and he's a good person as well. Those are all things that you want in a head coach. We've seen some things going on around the league, particularly with some accusations against Gabriel Heinze that that aren't ideal. You're not getting that with Raphael Wicke. You're getting somebody who treats players like adults. He's going to look them in the eye. He's going to tell them exactly what he expects of them. If they're not performing, he's not going to yell and scream and, make a scene. He's just going to simply, tell them that he expects more. But at the end of the day, there are some players that we've yet to see. You talked about Stanislav Ivanov briefly, but he's a player that we signed in the offseason that was probably the most polished and game ready. He tears his meniscus and is out for 4 to 6 months during preseason. We had 7 injuries at the beginning of preseason, basically all of them in the attacking third. And at the end of the day, Robert Beric has went a 10-match goalless streak. Your highest paid player, your designated player, and he's a streaky goal scorer, and he's proven that. He had a 7-match streak last year where he didn't score, but then he goes on a tear and scores in 6 straight games and almost sets a club record. So, there's been a lot of things that have contributed to maybe a lack of results that we've seen. But the fact of the matter is that this is still very much we're building something here. And again, this was basically starting a team from scratch. And I know that maybe some fans in the Chicago area don't want to hear that, but it's just the reality. And when you start a team from scratch, there are going to be some things you get wrong. There are going to be some things that you get right. But at the end of the day, I enjoy talking to Raphael Wicke. I think he's incredibly intelligent. He is the guy. And we're just going to see what's going to happen. They wanted to have some continuity heading into this year. They stuck with a group that won 5 games and that just missed out in the postseason, if not for a last-minute loss against NYCFC on decision day last year. So, who knows what could happen if they won that game, got into the postseason? You never know. But there's a lot of things that, this club obviously still is driving towards and is working towards. They do not want to be in 11th place. I can tell you that with the utmost of confidence. But there's still a lot of things that need to settle in. And, Raphael Wicke still has not coached. What have we played? 12 or 13 games. We played 24. So he barely just eclipsed his first year as far as a 34-game normal MLS schedule is concerned. Just barely. Yeah. So keeping that in perspective for Fire fans, I think is pretty big. Sorry for a long-winded answer, but a requirement.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. And, I think it's certainly fair. This is really the first sort of normal season we could ask for. DC obviously made the move, but I think that was sort of coming. When you forget to actually make sure your lineup's set correctly, I think that was kind of the writing on the wall for me and a lot of other fans with regards to Ben. So I understand the team sort of saying, we're going to give him time, like you said, and obviously there was a lot of stuff I didn't know. I didn't know this was just like a complete wholesale change from top to bottom almost for the Fire. So that's very interesting and certainly good to see. And they certainly seem engaged with the fans, which I think is the most important thing. With regards to that, I did want to also ask, obviously the move to Soldier Field has kind of sort of been the big move. Do you see that? I mean, obviously, we'll tell you anything. You put a successful product on the field, people show up. I've actually been out to games at Soldier Field. I went out when I was in middle school out to see actually them play DC United. It just so happened I was visiting at the time, and I remember the crowds being a little on the sparse side, but I could certainly see it was certainly a very beautiful stadium, great location. Everybody knows where it is. Sort of we're kind of in the first 2020, like I said, we can throw that out. That wasn't really a good indication. How have you seen sort of the move was sort of bringing in fans? Do you see fans maybe that the drive out to Bridgeview was not was just not something you would want to see, and now you're seeing more fans come in. What is sort of the move to Soldier Field sort of meant for the Chicago Fire?
It's been massive, Ted. It really has. I mean, when you think about Soldier Field and the history behind it, the Chicago Bears and, going back to the early days of the Chicago Fire from 98 until the early 2000s before they moved to Bridgeview, that's where the team, that's what the fans identify with, is that Chicago Fire. Frankie Klopas, Kosecki and Ante Razov and DeMarcus Beasley and Carlos Bocanegra when they're 18, 20 years old. That is the Chicago Fire that they identify with. And, football teams are meant to be in the city downtown, right? Like football teams are meant to be in the heart of the city that they're playing in. And Bridgeview is not the heart of Chicago. God bless Bridgeview and SeatGeek Stadium, but it's just a fact. I mean, nothing against it, but it's just the way that it is. And, Joe Mansueto, when he took over the team as the owner, recognized that. And he said, I want to get them back to Soldier Field, whatever it takes. And we had full capacity for the first time against Atlanta United, a 3-0 win. And Ted, it was deafening in there. Full capacity for soccer is about 26.5, I believe is the number, and we had about 16 there. I believe it was pretty bad weather on that day, but we still got 16,000 people out there, and it was an incredible atmosphere, and it's only going to get better. And like you said, it's not rocket science. There's no secret formula. If you put a good product on the field, they will come. If you build it, they will come. And the Chicago Fire are continuing to build something. Is it maybe taking a little bit longer than fans had hoped for? Absolutely. But they're still building, and we've seen glimpses of what this team and what some of the young players that they've signed can do. And combine that with the Soldier Field experience and being on the lakefront. And it's just going to continue to take off. I mean, this club is only going in one direction, and it's up. And when everything starts to click between the front office, the product on the field, the game day experience that's led by some incredible people here at the Chicago Fire that have been waiting for, a year and a half to be able to put this on, finally are able to do so. And it's really, the best experience for the fan. You can take a walk along the lakefront trail for maybe, 2 hours before the game, you roll in, there's Burnham Downs, this big fan festival that happens every game. There's little games that you can play. There's small-sided and beer and the whole thing. Like, it's just a great experience, and it's really been amazing for the club.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely something I'd be interested in checking out again. You mentioned those names, Ante Razov. You left off a couple other names, and I'm glad you did, because I would have gotten PTSD from some of that. Although one of your former midfielders did give us our last MLS Cup, so I will give you all that. I want to get a question on Stanislav Ivanov, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So he's ready to make his Fire debut. You talked about his injury he picked up in preseason. So maybe you can't really tell me much, but give me what have you sort of seen from him as a player? What can we expect? Because it looks like he might be available. Maybe he'll start in this game, and that might be something different that fans won't be that DC fans won't have really had a chance to see.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I haven't seen a ton of him. When we first were signing him. I was looking at some scouting videos and the like, and what I saw was a player who, number one, is just incredibly passionate about the game. He loves to play. He loves to score big goals, loves the moment, loves to go celebrate with the fans. I mean, he's a footballer's footballer. So that's number one. Number two, he's incredibly fast. He's very pacey. He's quick laterally. He can go north to south, and he can break lines and stretch the field. He's solid on the ball. He's got a nice low center of gravity. He can finish in the attacking third. He has a good range of passing, and I think that he has good vision as well. And if he's given time and space, he can pick out a killer pass as well. I think his best position would probably be as like an inverted winger. He's right-footed, put him on the left side, let him cut inside and let him link up that way. You could also put him as striker. And I think you could even potentially play him, on the interior and play him as, some sort of hybrid 8-10 role, sitting in front of a holding defensive central midfielder. So, he clearly has a range and he can offer different things to the club. And he had some interest from some big clubs. I think Galatasaray was after him a little bit, and we were able to beat them to the punch, or, maybe our offer was a little bit better, whatever the case might be. But he's a guy who's garnering some interest. He's only about 21 years old. He's still very young. He's always got a big smile on his face. And I think he's chomping at the bit. I mean, this is a guy that came to a new country, integrated into a new culture. A lot of these guys, who are coming maybe for some of these smaller leagues, the idea of playing in the United States and playing in Major League Soccer, I mean, beyond their wildest dreams. And, he's starting to get ready, he's starting to get fit, and then he goes down with a meniscus injury that they initially thought was only going to be 4 to 6 weeks, and it ends up being 4 to 6 months. So you're going to see a guy that's really hungry. He's not match fit. I would be shocked if he starts. Maybe he's coming off the bench and maybe inject some fresh legs and stretch the field. But this is a player that, when we signed John Espinoza, Chinoso Ofor, and Stanislav Ivanov, I always thought that he was the most game ready and most polished and ready to go. So I'm really eager to see him, and I know that the fans are as well.
All right, so DC fans obviously know Frankowski, Barrick. Obviously, we know Fabian Herbers. This is I think officially now been dubbed the DOS Soccer Podcast rivalry, considering you have two players that host the podcast.
Yeah.
Who's a player maybe that maybe you feel doesn't get enough national attention on the Fire? Who's a player that you're surprised in circles doesn't get attention, or a player maybe that DC fans might not be familiar with that you think would be an interesting player to watch on Wednesday?
I'm not sure if you mentioned him, but Madron, he's the guy in the middle of the field. He's got, about 80 La Liga appearances to his name. He came up to Real Madrid, actually came on as a substitute for Luka Modric in his debut for Real Madrid at one point in time. So this is a guy that clearly has the skill to play at that level. I think he's about 28 now. He just turned 28. He's incredibly smooth on the ball. He's been 3 times named the team of the week in consecutive weeks. Before the Nashville game, he had 5 assists in 3 matches. This is a guy who can boss the middle of the field. And he's one of those players. He's just electric in the middle of the park, and it almost kind of gives you a heart attack while he's doing it. He'll hold on to the ball and make you think that he's taking too many touches, but then he'll blow right past, one or two guys who are pressing, and that's your guys' styles. You're going to run straight at us for 90 minutes. And Madron's going to try to take some of those guys on. And if he can break the first line of pressure, he's going to hit a great pass on the other end and try to stretch the field. So he's a guy to keep an eye on in the middle of the field. And he's just a lot of fun to watch. He's a number 10 and he plays like it. He's got that swagger. He's got that confidence and he can do some really special things on the ball.
Well, Tyler, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. Before I let you go, I did want to get a prediction out of you. What are you feeling like for this game? We always do this with our guests.
I know. Prediction for the game. So you guys like to press. You just gave up 2 almost identical goals to Philadelphia on the counterattack. I thought you guys actually did enough to win that game. You're going to be a little bit pissed off about that. Obviously with some injuries. I know Perez went down and Knaus, no word on them yet. Let's go 2-1 to the Fire.
Ooh, 2-1. I'm going 1-1. I think a lot of fans are there are a lot of fans in the DC area, I think, that are kind of writing this game. I mean, I would say this is probably the game we're going to look to win. I think we'll come up short. I think we got injuries. I think we'll do enough, but I'm thinking a 1-1 draw here. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. You've been an awesome guest. Thanks for giving us a preview of the Fire. Give me, if you want to drop anything for fans that might be listening to. Obviously, your podcast I know is produced with the Chicago Fire, but it seems to me you guys are taking more of an international soccer approach with Arlo White. So definitely, feel free to plug that. Plug whatever you would like. This is your opportunity.
Yeah. So the podcast was just launched last week. First episode in the books, and we got some really good feedback on it. It's called the Intercontinental Football Show. You can get it anywhere where you look up your podcasts, and it's a lot of fun. Arlo White, the voice of the Premier League. Not much more to say about him. He's an absolute gem of a football host and commentator and a human being, and I love working with him and getting to know him while he called a few games for us. If you want to follow me on Twitter @TNTerens, I just got verified a couple of weeks ago, so I'm still riding that high. And that's about it. That's all I got, Ted. And I appreciate you having me on. Again, Intercontinental Football Show is the podcast. We talk Premier League, we talk, big football storylines, and then we'll also talk some Chicago Fire as well. It is a Chicago Fire FC production. But looking forward to the game on Wednesday, and hopefully it's an entertaining one that ends in a Fire 3 points. And I know that that's not exactly a popular opinion on this podcast, but darn it, I'm going to say it anyway. Ted, I appreciate you, pal.
We appreciate tribalism in any forms, trust me. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Again, twitter.com/RFKRefugees, RFKRefugees.com. We're going to put this up for Patreons. Probably I'll put it off this if you're listening to this on our Patreon, we appreciate it. If you're listening to this on Wednesday morning or maybe a little bit later Tuesday evening, join our Patreon. You get early access to all this content, so definitely check it out. I want to thank Tyler again for joining the show, and we will catch you guys. We're doing another. We got 2 games. We got to do more previews. We'll catch you all later. Vamos.